Okay, I think we're here.
Hello, everybody.
Good evening, everyone, or good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be. Welcome to our live discussion of Gideon the Ninth by Tamsyn Muir. This is our typical night for discussion. So if you're new here, we always have our live discussion of our monthly book on the last Tuesday of the month. And if you'd like to join us for reading sprints, we always do that on the first Tuesday of the month. So you'll see us again next week, Tuesday. So as we're kind of getting started here, if you're just joining us or you're watching this in replay, please feel free to comment anytime throughout the live, and we'll get into a great discussion. Before we get into June's book, which again is Gideon the Ninth, we wanted to share with you, in case you didn't see it online on Instagram or Facebook, but our July book, so our July pick for reading. If you follow us or you've been with us for a while, you know that May and July are Laura and I's birthday month. So Laura got to pick the May book because May is her birthday month, and I get to pick the July book because July is my birthday month. So I picked a Wisconsin writer, one that I have read from before, and I just wanted to keep it light and airy, seeing it is the summertime. So I picked The Kindred Spirits Supper Club by Amy E. Reichert. If you know anything about her writing, it's very soft, and it's like rom-com-ish. I wouldn't say it's spicy. I don't know about this one, but from the two that I've read, the romance is more it's very tame. I would say it's like a quarter of a pepper.
Yeah, like closed doors for sure. Kissing and hand holding, probably.
Yeah, I mean, and like
implications.
Yeah, alluding to, or maybe thoughts of the afterthoughts of it, but nothing like no descriptions or anything like that. So if you're not into romance, this is probably okay for you, because there's usually not a lot of that, real spicy stuff, not even steamy, not even like lukewarm. It's more just like nice. So I'm just going to read the back of the book so that you have a little bit of an idea. So this says, for Sabrina Monroe, moving back home to Wisconsin Dells. Oh, I should just. So before we got into the live here, I was telling Laura, I was like, I wonder where this one's going to take place, because all of her books take place in Wisconsin. And the two other books that I had read, one was Milwaukee and the other was Door County. And I'm like, I wonder where this one's going to be from.
Yeah.
See, this proves I never read the back of books. I just pick up a book and I go, yay, that looks good. So anywho.
It really, really doesn't. It's amazing. It's impressive.
So for Sabrina Monroe, moving back home to Wisconsin Dells, the self-described water park capital of the world, means returning to the Monroe family curse. The women in her family can see spirits who come to them for help with unfinished business. But Sabrina has always redirected the needy spirits to her mom, who is much better suited for the job. The one exception has always been Molly, a bubbly, rom-com loving ghost who's stuck by Sabrina's side all through her lonely childhood. Her personal life starts looking up when Ray, a new local restaurateur, invites Sabrina to his supper club, where he flirts with her over his famous brandy old fashions. He is charming and handsome, but Sabrina tells herself she does not have time for romance. She needs to focus on finding a job. Except the longer she stays in the Dells, the harder it is to resist her feelings for Ray, who can turn down a cute guy with a fondness for rescue dogs and an obsession with perfecting his deep-fried cheese curd recipe. When the Dells starts to feel like home for the first time, and with Ray in her corner, Sabrina begins to realize that she can make a difference and help others wherever she is. This is going to be so like nostalgic, because obviously I've been to the Dells numerous times. I've been to countless supper clubs. I do not do brandy old fashions. I'm more of a whiskey old fashioned. But this is just going to be like, it's going to be so nice. And the supernatural aspect. So I've read two of her books. One did not have any like supernatural aspects, but the other did have a little bit of magical realism in it. So I was wondering if this one was going to have that, and it's definitely a lot more. It's probably going to be a lot more to the story than the other one that I read. So I'm looking forward to this. I'm excited.
Me too.
This is going to be fun.
Yeah, I read one other of hers that Coincidence of Coconut Cake, which is set in Milwaukee. That was her first book. I read that. That was wonderful. It was so nice. Just like a really easy read and fun to see Wisconsin stuff and not like in a murder show. I watch a lot of true crime, so like, it comes up a lot that way. So it's really nice to be like, oh, nice stuff happens here. Yeah, it was really good.
This one will be nice. It'll be interesting to see how many landmarks she puts in there.
Yeah,
I'll be excited.
That was a lot, but not in a long time. I mean, it's probably been since I was in my early 20s or maybe even teenagers. I mean, and I've never been to a supper club, and I've never had an old fashioned. I'm probably gonna get kicked out of the state for saying that, but like I never have.
Well, you're gonna have to make one for our live discussion so you can enjoy it while we critique, because
I can fall asleep on a camera. That'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm not partial to the brandy. I much prefer the whiskey. But yeah, I mean, old fashions are very good. Anywho, okay, so that is our book for July. So again, if you're looking for that, it's The Kindred Spirits Supper Club by Amy E. Reichert. Okay. So again, tonight's book is Gideon the Ninth by Tamsyn Muir. This was our June read. A sci-fi fantasy, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a good mix.
Yeah. So how we always start our book discussions, we always do a rating. So out of 1 to 5, 5 being amazing, kind of the Goodreads scale, what would you rate this book?
Yeah, I don't know. You and I have talked about this a little bit. I think I'm going to settle on a 3 because it was hard for me to get into, and I didn't really understand the bulk of what was going on until over halfway through, which I think has to dock some points off, whatever. I did end up reading it and enjoying it, but there are so many things that irritated me about it. I don't want to give it a 2. I didn't think it was just okay, but it's just barely a 3. Not like even a 2.75. It's like barely a 3, It was a 3.5 when I first finished it, and like maybe almost a 4. I was like, the more I think about it, the more I was getting annoyed by all the things that were unanswered and everything else. So rambly answer, but yeah, 3. What did you think?
Yeah, before I say what I think, I just wanted to say hello to Andy.
Hi, Andy.
Thank you for being here. Nice to see you. And Andy, and I'm sorry, I'm all clunky because I'm using my phone, so I apologize. But Andy rated it a 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to agree with that because and so on Goodreads, I do have it listed as a 3 because you can't do half on Goodreads.
Yep.
And I felt, to be fair, it wasn't fair to round down on Goodreads. I always just round up. Unless it's like, I feel like it's less that, I don't know. Regardless, it's 3 on Goodreads, but for me, I definitely agree with Andy. 2.5. This book, we'll get into a lot of it during the questions, but there is just so much about this that I just couldn't give it a higher rating. I couldn't really say that I felt that a lot of it was relatable, and not that sci-fi fantasy is supposed to be relatable, but the characters themselves, a lot of them were hollow, and it just felt like it, like you said, it took so long to get in the groove of things. that it really dampened a lot of the story overall.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yep, I do the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I was round up.
Yeah. So, like, that said, what were your overall thoughts of the book?
Well, frustration was the main and the lasting one. It was just a frustrating read. Um, it's one thing, and I like books like this, when books sort of drop you in and you figure out as you go. I those are fine. I have no problem with that. But this was such a different setting, and with having all the different houses and then all of the people in each of the houses and the different rankings, that's a lot to like try and take in and get used to, so you're not thinking about this and who's this person and what's this. But as you're going along, typically when you get dropped into something, there's more explanation. Like right as things happen, something gets explained in the next paragraph, the next sentence, something, they like, oh, I saw that thing turn around the corner. And you're like, oh, a thing is a shadow thing that blah, 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 blah. It'll do it right then. This book doesn't do any of that. This book just does not explain things for a long, long time. And it counts on you to remember little things and remember what's happening. The things that were referenced fairly obliquely, like 50 or 60 pages later. And then they'll reveal some part of it. Like for this one, like a key will unlock the door and you'll see what was in this behind this door. And you're like, oh, okay, that's what that was. But it's so much later. And so much has happened. You've talked to so many people, so many things have been going on. It was just really confusing and hard to get a hold of what was really even happening. And the description of the book is fairly unhelpful. It tells you what happens on the first page, pretty much, and that's it. It was just a lot. Once we got to this planet, because apparently these are all planets, it just sounds like houses, sounds like continents. It could be continents. Who knows? I don't know. Once they get there and kind of settle in and you meet some more people, you kind of figure, oh, okay, this is like a big sprawling complex that's kind of crumbling and old. And oh, the skeletons, okay, and the people. That helped more too. It was just a lot of it. I was just very confused. And when there was an explanation, it was late in coming and often very incomplete. And there were so many things that were brought up and then never referred to again. And because everything is complex and there's a lot of characters, and a lot of characters die too, and then they have nicknames, and which we've dealt with before with like Russian names. Everyone has like 4 different names. I would forget who was who was with what house. Like, who was Corona Beth with again? I don't remember. I just have to go back and look all the time. It was just confusion and irritation were my main things with this, and I did end up enjoying it, and I do want to read. Yeah, thank you, Andy. I do want to read the second and third because I want to keep it rolling while I can, while some of this stuff is sort of fresh in my brain, even though I am very confused still. I want to see where this goes because it's a very different setting and a very different world from what I'm used to reading. So, yeah, very big ramble of just irritation and confusion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think for me, a lot of similar feelings. Definitely the confusion, the annoyance. I think overall, I think I expressed this to you when I was like a quarter of the way through. There was just absolutely like no world building.
Mm-hmm.
It just like threw you into situations and gave you brief descriptions of like their surroundings to a point, but
Right.
not like true world building. Like putting a list of like all these houses and then like throwing us into this somewhat death match where all these skeletons are like beating the crap out of Gideon. Like, I was like, wait, what? Are they like, where are they? And then when you find out they're getting into a shuttle, and then you're like, okay, so sci-fi, so they're on different planets. So every house is on a different planet. So they can just breathe everywhere? Like I was so confused because in my mind I have to understand, like, because this is a sci-fi fantasy. So to me, this is otherworldly. We're not talking about what it is like on Earth, because Earth doesn't exist. This is a completely different world. So you have to build it for me. And I just, from the get-go, I felt like there was way more emphasis on the banter between characters than there was of like giving us an idea of what was happening in the world that they were corresponding on. Like, it did nothing. And then you integrate all of these characters, and it just became a huge like Agatha Christie novel, like the whodunit. Like, we're all in one place. It can only be the people that are here, kind of thing. So like, who was in the room with the ratchet, and whatever. So for me overall, it was too much of not really having a foothold, and the author, like you said, giving you like breadcrumbs, but then never actually leading the way anywhere. It was just like a new thing. And not to get too far into it, but I have a big like pet peeve of introducing a villain at the very end of the book. So it was absolutely no one that you would have suspected, because, oh, by the way, it was me, someone you didn't even know about at all throughout the entire book. It was me. And it's like, well, duh, how would they have known it was you? You don't technically exist until you existed. So that's really frustrating to me too. That to me feels like a cop-out. Like, because it's like, you have to have someone, you have to have the villain, you have to have the person that is doing all these wrong things, these people that are killing. And then because you want to get creative and crafty, it's going to be this random other person that you have literally never heard of throughout the entire book. And that to me is very frustrating. Very frustrating, because as a reader, you are part of the story. You're trying to figure it out with them. You're trying to, be like, who are they going to be safe with? And it's just, So that's my overall thoughts. And I think that's why I pegged it so low. And I want to refer to a comment that Andy made, because I think it is so true. So whenever I'm reading a book and I'm having a hard time with it, what I'll do is I'll go into Goodreads and I'll read a few reviews. And then, I know you do this too, you'll have seen or will look at a few reviews or people who have talked about it. And absolutely, there were so many people talking about this book. There are people that I follow on Goodreads, people that I follow on BookTube, who 5 stars, best book ever, Gideon's the best character ever, like just going mental about this book. And I even read one, they're like, the world building is the best. And I was like, what book are you reading? Like, what book did you read? Because it wasn't the book that I read. So it was that made me even more confused, because then I felt like I was missing something. Like, what am I missing here? Like, everyone's saying this book is so good. Everyone's saying that the world building is like, the top-notch world building. And I'm like, what books do you read? Like, I'm not saying this is a terrible book. I know that my lower rating is based on my opinion and the books that I've read and the world building expectation that I have for books like this. So I know that like everyone comes from a different way of reading, but I mean, I don't know what they consider world building. There's no world building here. It's just like dropped a bunch of people on, I don't know, dirt. I don't know, because there's no world building to tell you. And just like, it's just all this banter between characters, which don't get me wrong, it's not bad, but I need more world build. I don't care about paint on your face that causes pimples. Like, who cares about that? What does that have to do with anything? That literally being mentioned like 3 times, 4 times in the book, it does literally nothing for my understanding of the book and the characters. I could care less.
Right. And why do we the paint on in the first place?
Building. Yeah.
I mean, thinking of this too, like the describing of things. It's like they drop you somewhere, you're somewhere new, like you're in the shuttle, and she describes the shuttle in like a small paragraph, and that's it. And you're like, okay, you're in a shuttle, and then it goes like hovers above a planet, and then it lands. You're like, okay, so it's landed, but like there's not a lot of description of where they're landing, where they're coming into, what this first place is like, what they're known for, blah blah blah. It's just like you're in a shuttle, it's gray and it's dark in there, and they have to like lower the blinds. Okay, then they're on a planet, and it looks kind of crumbling and old, and there's like green stuff everywhere, and there's algae, and but it looks like it's big. Okay, like there has to be a difference in describing things, world building, from Brandon Sanderson, where it's like blah 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 blah, this huge things, and this, which is like almost after the fact, and it's very short and very brief. It's just enough so you feel like your feet are on the ground a little bit, so you feel like if you turn, you're in a hallway. You're like, okay, I get it. It's underground, okay, but the whole layout of everything, which I know part of that like labyrinthine thing is part of the confusion of the book, where they can explore and like open up hatches with keys and go underground, and I get it, but there's got to be a better way to describe things than this, which is a complicated world with like very 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 little description as you're going.
Right.
So it's very discombobulating.
Right, and a magic system that
no description at all. It's just here, it's happening.
They just have magic. They're just born with
Right.
magic, or it gets sucked out of 200 children. Like it
Right.
doesn't like. Yeah. Anywho, Andy, I'm not sure. I did not think that hard.
Well, you know, I was just so confused by so much of it.
Yeah. So anywho, okay, so let's pause on our confusion part and let's just talk about the book in segments. So here we go. What did you think about Gideon's relationship with Harrow? We have the beginning of the story where they're clearly frenemies to the end of the story. What did you think about that from like beginning to end? And I'm actually going to move locations, so I'm going to let you start that, and I will see you in a second.
Okay. Yeah. So honestly, again, confusing, because there's that hatred right away that is sort of explained, but it still doesn't really make sense. Like the depth and the apparent, like, it seems like Gideon can't die, like she's immortal, but all the time she's talked about being beaten to death and starved and hung in cages and all this crazy crap. And it seems that Harrow was behind a lot of it. It just seems confusing. And then they're still enemies throughout the majority of the book. And then they have one conversation. Finally, Harrow decides to talk to her and explain to her what's going on after Gideon and us being confused for at least 60% of the book. She explains what's happening, or what has happened, the history of things. And then you're supposed to just get it. It was still confusing to me. It made more sense. I was still confused. But I felt better about the relationship. And I understand like how it ended, and how Gideon felt so close to Harrow and vice versa. I get it at the end because it is life or death situations. But I was still confusing for the bulk of it. And even after the big explanation, it still didn't quite make sense. This like massive hatred and all this stuff, and like why the 200 kids had to die. Like, who says it's 200? Where did that thing come from? Like, and everyone just knows and believes that. From what we hear about the ninth house later on, it seems to all be just made up out of nowhere. Like, this house shouldn't exist in the first place. But there's this like legend and lore that's built. Where did this come from? Who wrote this? Who decided it was 200? Who figured this out? Like, it was frustrating. So even with the explanation and like the betterment of their friendship and relationship from then on, it made sense, but it also didn't make sense. This is like apparent like depth of like love and take everything from me after all this chaos and really a whole lifetime of lies and BS. Suddenly, like the last minute, you're like, oh yeah, that's fine. You can just take my body and everything, and I'm cool with that. I'll help everybody. Like, no. Yeah. So again, confusing, frustrating. I get it, but I don't get it.
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, in the very beginning, it felt very like, because Harrow is like nobility, so to speak, and then Gideon is a servant. You have the idea that they don't like each other because they're on different
classes.
tiers of life. So of course Harrow's going to be a total jerk and like treat Gideon poorly, and of course Gideon's going to not like that and be disobedient and cause trouble and all that. That makes sense, right? Because you're like, yes. But then for Harrow to just be like, okay, well, since I beat you when you're trying to escape, basically, now you're going to be my cavalier and you have to come with me. And if you do that, then I'll let you go. So, of course, because all she wants to do, because of however many times she said she tried to escape, she had a number, I don't remember what it is.
Yeah.
That she's going to go and they're going to do this. So there's this hatred because Harrow basically has her freedom in her back pocket. Like, I have to do all the stupid things because Harrow holds my future in her palm. So then as the story unfolds, they're finding out that the only way to beat these challenges is for them to trust each other. But I feel like there's way more trust being requested on the Gideon side. Because, I mean, it's almost the end of the book, and Gideon is still unsure if Harrow is the good guy.
Yes.
Like, to the end of the book, like, almost to, the final...
It's like the beginning of the final battle.
Yeah.
She's still like, I don't know.
She's still, like, questioning whether or not Harrow is doing the right thing. Mm-hmm. And it's that moment that they share in the pool, because apparently that's the only place she can tell anybody anything, is in a body of salted water or whatever, which again doesn't make sense. But anywho, she tells her everything about like why she hated her, like why Harrow hated Gideon for their whole life, and why all the children died and not Gideon, which again, that also was like not properly explained. And I think I have a theory on that, and I'll discuss that later. But she tells, so at first we think that all these kids, all of these children, an entire generation of children died from the flu, basically. They all died because they got sick. Then we find out that it was deliberate and that they were all poisoned. And the reason why Gideon didn't die is because she was missed. Like she was not there. She was like a servant basically. So she was not where all of these children were. Then we find out that they did, like Harrow says in the pool, you breathed the poison for 10 minutes and you still didn't die. Mm-hmm. And that is why my parents hated you. But then later again, I think they say again, like, it's just because she was missed. And it's like, no, she was poisoned and she didn't die. So that leads me to another theory that we'll talk about later. But anywho, so you two make amends simply because she just told you the truth about what happened, which is diabolical, by the way. Mm-hmm. And not that it's to her fault. Like, it's not Harrow's fault. Obviously, she was not born. Mm-hmm. She's just an abomination. Like, literally. Mm-hmm. So I can understand the guilt and whatever else. But, like, again, how would you know? How would she know that that's what happened? Right. Why would her parents tell her that? Why would that be known to her? That doesn't make any sense. And then, so again, going back to their relationship, it was very awkward, I feel like, then that they are like besties all of a sudden. And so much so that Gideon is going to literally dive off a cliff into basically a spear, like
a spiked fence, yeah.
Like so that Harrow can become a lector and vanquish this other lector who just surprisingly came out of nowhere at the end of the book.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how someone can be like, hate someone for 20 years and then in a matter of days be like, you know what? We were wrong about each other.
Right. But still, like you said before, at the very end, the start of the end of the battle, she still does not 100% trust Harrow. But 20 pages later, 30 pages later, at the end of the battle, she happily sacrifices her whole life for her. And it's like, you were just unsure, like 2 fights ago, like 2 consecutive fights ago. And now you're like, no, I'm good. So in all that time you had to think about everything and adjust to what was happening, you decided to just give up your life for this person that you did not trust at all, well, unsure about, like a little while ago. What? No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I
might lower my rating. I'm getting really mad. I'm getting so mad.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, when you think about it, as in the arc, the possibility, the what's the word I'm looking for? Potential of that arc, that character arc of them really becoming friends and really, you know, putting their life on the line for one another. I don't feel like it was necessary. I feel like it should have been the other way around.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like a true character arc would have been Harrow giving up her life for Gideon.
Mm-hmm.
Because Gideon has already given up everything constantly. She had a terrible childhood because she was something that we don't know yet. I'm sure it'll come out in other books. Mm-hmm. And like a servant, tortured by these nuns and crews, mm-hmm. and then made to be this cavalier, beat up, having to deal with all this crap, and then killing herself mm-hmm. for you. And what have you ever done for her?
Right, for some skinny little witch who did nothing but abuse her, beat her up, treat her like crap, and ignore her and lie to her, essentially. Yeah. And you can barely lift a freaking sword, but you're going to exist and have like the strength of this person? Like, no.
Yeah, it didn't make sense to me at all. It didn't make sense to me at all.
That knowledge would be easier to transfer mentally. Just that knowledge that Harrow has, which is her importance, is her remembrance of what was going on and everything else. That's the important thing. You need someone that is like sturdy and can fight. And Gideon has had some training, minimal, but she has some training and knew how to do some things. Like, that's the body you need to be in, is the stronger body, not this weak little skeletal bird, which she called her a bird like a bunch of times. Like, the bird's not the one you want to save, you know? You want the like mountain climber, you know? Ugh, the shot putter.
On that note, what did you think about the role of humor?
Yeah, it was fine. It was funny. I don't think I laughed. I think I might have chuckled a couple of times, but it was fine. I like banter. This was almost exclusively banter. It was like, 90% banter in the place of having a conversation or a world of character building, which, so it was funny. It was helpful. It helped to keep me going in the story. And because I'm also sarcastic, I know you are too, it was more relatable that she would say like something sarcastic as a response when someone would give her new information. She'd be like, okay, sure, whatever, Jan. So I liked it, and that helped it. I think if it wasn't there, I wish there was less of it, but if it wasn't there, it would be more of a knock for the book.
Yeah, I liked it. I like snarky banter. I like characters that call people out on their crap. Like, I don't I like when it's like you have like a little bit of a comic relief without it being too like jokey or clowny. Like I don't like slapstick, but I like snarky, witty, clever, just those people who know just the right buttons to press. But what I will say is in the very beginning of the book, it was way too much, way too soon.
Yeah.
Like it felt like that was all there was. And it was like, is this really, am I going to read an entire book of just like squabbling back and forth constantly about things we as readers don't even know anything about yet?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I felt like it was too heavy in the beginning, and then it really just ebbed out very nicely through the end. And even as Gideon is in her head, she's like, I'm just an idea of what you think I would say. And like it, I was like, see, it carries through very nicely. And I did like it. And I liked that it was really a very good indication of Gideon's personality. It was I feel like, and obviously being from her point of view, I feel like you really had a good understanding of Gideon because of all of the obviously internal thoughts you had with her, but her interactions with other people, you really got a good sense of who that character was. Which is another reason why for books like this, I sometimes really don't like first person narratives because you miss out on a lot of other things.
Yeah.
So maybe that's where the world building lacks, is because it is in first person. I don't know. I guess we'll see. Yeah. But speaking of that too, like, how did you interpret the setting? Like, was it a futuristic space empire? A haunted Gothic house? Or both?
Yeah. Both, and then more, it sounds like. I mean, it seems to be sort of a little of everything, though you only really get the descriptions of futuristic space empire, but old and crumbling and dead and no longer relevant. And, and then this haunted Gothic house, which, can I ask a quick question about Ninth House? So in the first chapter, we get a description of how Gideon got to the planet, like her mother supposedly fell like unconscious through like a parachute, like down this crevasse in the planet, and she landed in Ninth House. So that's where she's supposed to be. Like, so Ninth House is supposed to be underground. It's bones, it's dark, it's damp, right? Blah, blah. And I get that they would have like staircases or whatever to get up to the surface for transport, like for the shuttle. I get that. But then also, she talks about having a window in her cell at one point, but she couldn't see out of it. And then there's all these fields with skeletons harvesting stuff. Don't you have to have fields on the surface so there's like daylight of some kind? So how does that work? I don't understand that.
If you think about it, so there's several like post-apocalyptic books where they live underground. They have like lights that basically charge like a fake sunlight to do the plants and everything. And I think Gideon references like the different foods that they have at this place that they're at, because they're able to actually have gardens and stuff. But even that is still a little bit different. Yeah, so Ninth House is underground, and she talks about like the sunlight and looking through the window and fresh air that she's able to breathe. But if you think like, so they're underground doesn't necessarily mean that they're like in the dirt. I mean, they're still like dome, like carved out a big enough space. I don't know. That's what my mind came up with. And I felt like my interpretation wasn't that Gideon was from somewhere else. I thought it was that the mother was trying to escape. Like she was a servant and she was trying to escape with Gideon, and then she was trying to escape through the shafts, and then and fell down.
But she had a parachute.
Yeah, I don't remember. It was so, because I did an audiobook, so like I could have just missed that.
This is why I'm confused too, because this is all in the first paragraph, or the first chapter, excuse me, which is on the top of this thing when the first time we get it, it's on top of this like helipad essentially. When you hear this thing, she talks about seeing the skeletons working in the fields.
Mm-hmm.
So like they're working in the fields, right? Doing stuff, whatever else, all the stuff up and down. But again, if her mother falls down this crevasse and finally hits Ninth House at the bottom and like gets all the nuns see her, everybody finds her there, blah, blah, blah. So it sounds like everyone is very deep underground. Mm-hmm. Then how deep underground are you? Are there massive elevators that take these skeletons up and down all the time to go to the surface? Like, I just don't, the logistics of it make no sense to me. Yeah. It drives me crazy. Yeah. Because like, what do you mean? How far down is Ninth House? I get that it's underground and it's dark. Cool. What? But like, you don't explain the rest of it then too. So I'm glad we didn't spend a lot of time there because it was making me more and more mad. Like, I don't.
Well, what was making me upset too is I didn't understand. Okay, so all these houses, these champions of these houses are going to go to this place where the emperor wants them to go to basically do these trials to figure out who's going to become the new lector, which is like his right hand man who is like immortalized then to help him fight. Fight what?
Right. Where?
Fight what? What are they fighting? What are they fighting against? And then also they get their house renewed, or what's the word? Like
it's immortalized, like it's like guaranteed or something. Or
yeah, like to bring back their house, like bring their house back to the glory or whatever. And it's like, what does that even mean?
Right.
What are you talking about? I was getting so mad because I wasn't understanding, like, okay, I don't understand. So the houses are in ruin? Like, so they're not like, I didn't understand anything. I didn't understand a damn thing. I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And what war is he talking about?
Right.
It almost feels like we didn't get any of that because it's going to be talked about in another book. And I'm just like, I don't even know.
Yeah. And I get that it sounds like, as we find out later in the book, yeah, I believe it. I totally get it, Andy. I was right on the verge of ready to give up too. Like, it just seems like it seems like you find out that like everyone else thinks all the other houses are doing well, but like the house that they're from is suffering. So they're all like hiding off how bad they are, how poor they are, how like weak all of their generations are, you know, how they have this disease, blah, blah, whatever. You find out later on, like later on in the book, that all the houses are really suffering and doing poorly. But not everyone knows that. Everyone assumes that everyone's doing great and they have to hide how not great the individual ones are doing. So like, to restore the house would be like, you would think most houses would be like, yeah, I don't need that, whatever, I don't care. And that just the occasional house would be like, maybe one of them would be like, yeah, I really could use this restoration, whatever you want to call it. But they all need this. Like, what? Oh my God. And the whole last chapter, which I don't want to jump ahead in the conversation, but the whole last chapter with the emperor, I was like, you just like took away the whole entire book that we just read. Like, none of this stuff matters anymore. And now you're something that for a whole other pile of I don't know what.
Yep. It was a setup. It was clearly like the setup for the next book, like a setup to be like, oh, look at now all this information. Isn't this cool? You want to read this next book. But to me, I was like, what? I'm not, what? So, because I was literally, because when the emperor was there and he said, I want you to fight with me, I literally was like, oh yeah, that's the whole point of this, is he wants someone to fight. And I'm like, fight what?
Yeah.
What are we fighting?
And where the hell are we going?
What are we fighting? I don't understand.
Because now the whole first house world where this whole book was set essentially is gone. It's like destroyed in this mega fight and like flooding and rusting and everything. So they can't go back to this first island. So you're on a whole different, none of the houses, none of those planets, it's a whole other thing again. So unlike most series which build on each other when you follow some places and you get to know the worlds, this seems to be so insular. Like every book is a big, like, I don't know what, its own little separate thing. And then you take like 2 characters out and jump it to the next, I don't know what. And then is that maybe the next thing again too? Like, I'm going to read it because now I'm mad, but like, not reading because I'm going to enjoy
I mean,
it.
the only reason why I knew that there was like a war in place is because the teenagers,
Right.
Isaac and Jan?
Yeah, Jenna Mary. Yeah.
Yeah. They kept referring to the fact that they were joining the military. They wanted to join the military. And I was like, to me, I was like, well, everyone has a military. So like, of course, okay, they're going to join the military. Not think like, okay, so they're like in active war, but like with what? So either I completely missed that along with a lot of other things, or it was never actually explained properly.
Right. And it was never explained. And Andy was right. Her comment about having to discuss every chapter with somebody, that's the only way that you could, I think, get a better grip of what was happening, even though there would still be massive gaps.
Yeah. And I know you and I talked, periodically throughout it. I know I finished a little bit earlier, so then we kind of had a backtrack conversation. But even with that, this has all been very confusing. It's all been very, very confusing. Because, I mean, we're just talking about, like, very overall ideas. I mean, we haven't even touched the idea of, like, what they're actually doing at this place.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually their next. Yes. So the locker room mystery element. So like they get there, they meet this dude named Teacher, and he's like the leader of all the priests who are at this place. And he basically tells them, okay, so you all get this one key, and then you can go find all the rest. And whoever has the most keys at the end wins. Yeah. But that's like it. That's all he says. So they just don't even know. So they like all go off on their own little corners and decide what they're going to do about it all. And as it unfolds, you find out that it's a lot more than finding keys. And it's a lot more than, this is life or death kind of stuff. Because along with the key, not only do you have to have the key to properly unlock the door, because if you don't, you will die. They will come after you. And they being something in the house. Something in the house.
That even Teacher seems to not be sure of, or like, he wouldn't even suggest what it could be. Yeah. That's this thing that lives underground, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, my dude, you live here. Don't you know what this is? Yeah.
And then that once you open the door, then there's some kind of trial that you have to complete behind the door to secure that next key. It's so, and this is what really pissed me off, is when you get to the end of the book, you find out they didn't have to do any of that. They literally did not have to do any of that. I'm not going to say what they have to do, but it was a cop-out. It's another cop-out. I don't like when authors do this. It's like you wasted an entire book of these people doing all of these things for no reason.
And learning more and figuring things out, and like learning about each other, and then mourning the loss when people get killed violently and do all this shit for nothing. And I want to say too, for anyone who hasn't watched us before, has not joined us, they're just coming along this live discussion. Hi. Dani and I read very widely. We don't read one genre. We read all the genres, right? Probably the least would be sports, I'm going to guess, or business. But like any kind of nonfiction, all kinds of fiction, we read it all. And we have both been very large, long lifetime readers. We're both middle-aged. I'm calling you middle-aged, even though you're not quite there yet. But like, I'm in my 40s, right? Rereading has been my thing my whole entire life. So like, we are not new to reading, new to this game. We easily read over 100 books a year each. We are not new to this. This is not like, oh, you just don't know because you don't read sci-fi that much. You don't read a lot of fantasy. No, that's not the case. We don't read exclusively those things, but we have read a lot of things, and a lot of older things too, like from the 70s and 80s that are maybe more obscure or considered more canon too. Those are all under our belt. This stuff is not like out of scope. So if you think we don't know what we're talking about, we kind of do. Not that we can't be wrong or make mistakes. Absolutely. I will be the first to put my hand up and apologize for any mistake I made. But like, this is not the rave that everyone says it is, and I don't understand. It's not. This is not the huge 5-star success that a lot of books are. And I read a lot of stuff that's popular, personally. I think you do too. And we read it and you go, that was fine. That was good. Wasn't the best thing I've read, but it was good. There's a lot of that. And it's not a difference of opinion. It's not that. It's a what was going on here. That's what this is. So that's what this rant is about if you're new to us. Please don't think that we are just ragging on this to rag on this and we don't know what we're talking about. We kind of do. So caveat to this, because I don't want this to get viral and be like, well, these two don't blah, blah, blah. No. We read a lot. We're not total idiots. Like, yeah.
And like we've been saying throughout, there are several aspects of this book that we really did like. I liked Gideon. I thought she was a very aggressive, sarcastic, witty character. I enjoyed her throughout. I think she got a shitty ending. I don't think it was deserved. I understand what the author was trying to do there, and I very much appreciate and admire the strategy that Gideon decided to go with. Yeah. However, I think deservingly, it should not have been her. It should not have been her at all.
Right.
And considering that she wasn't a true cavalier, which I think the author was trying to imply by the end that she was,
right.
I don't think that it was necessary that it was her. I feel like it would have been more compelling and more interesting if it would have been Harrow and Gideon would have taken on Harrow's necromancy. Like, I think that would have been more interesting, more compelling story. I just don't think that someone that you've been basically shitting on her entire life decides that they're also going to give their life to you at the end.
Right.
Like, that was very disheartening to me. And pretty much the reason why I've decided to not continue the series, because 1, I have no idea what this world looks like. 2, I have no idea what this world is doing. Like, I don't know what war this is. Like, war against other necromancers? War against what? From what I understand, the emperor is ever living, meaning he's God. So he's God. And he's fighting against what? Other gods or other people wanting to be him or other lectors that he's made, pissed off, like this one that randomly appeared at the end of this book.
Right.
Like, I don't understand. So speaking of which,
sorry for the side thing, but I want to just defend ourselves for a second and be like, wait a minute. We're not idiots. We read a lot.
Yeah.
We're not ragging on this book to rag on this book.
Right. And obviously we've read this book one time. We don't read the book, 3 or 4 times to acknowledge every little minute detail. We don't, I don't annotate my book club books. We just read for pleasure and we get together and we answer the questions truthfully because we want this book club to be laid back and a place that people can come and just say what they want to say.
Yeah, try different stuff out and talk about it.
Exactly. I felt like from the get-go of this trial, it was an Agatha Christie novel. It was an Agatha Christie mystery because it was a whodunit. Once the first murder happened, I was like, this is a whodunit. This is literally, and then there were none. This is what that is. That's what it is. And you start to really like certain characters, but you're also very hesitant because you're like, is it them? Is it them? And I had a pretty good idea of who it was from the get-go. And I was kind of right. But then the author decided to make that person someone completely else who wasn't in the book at all.
Right. No one
Like,
could
I feel like for that to have worked, they should have learned about this random lector, and like maybe that they broke from the emperor and they haven't been seen for a while. So like it should have been mentioned somewhere in the book so that when she appeared, it was like, oh my gosh,
Right.
that's the person that they've been learning about, that they've seen these things for. But no.
Like, this is that legendary blah, blah, blah. Nope.
Yeah. Again, unless I completely missed that part.
Yeah, then so did I.
Yeah.
And I know sometimes when I'm reading a book, especially if I'm near the end, I'm excited and I want to see what's happening. So I read fairly quickly anyways, but I read so fast that I know I skip things. And I'll finish a page, I'll go to the next one and be like, wait a second, I didn't take anything in. Let me go read again and read word for word. So I pay attention. This, especially the end, felt like that, but I was reading slowly because I was already confused the entire book. I didn't want to be confused at the end when all the revelations were supposed to be happening. Yeah. So I was really trying to read slowly. And even still, I would go read 2 paragraphs and I'd go, I don't know what this means. Yeah. Go back and read it again. Like, no, I read everything there that says nothing, explains nothing. And it's supposed to be because of the reaction of some of the people that were in the scene. I was like, oh, I don't get this. Okay, keep going. Like, it felt like that. Like, I just missed every 3rd or 4th word. Yeah. But there's they're not just not there. Like, what? Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Overall, I think the book is interesting. It has an interesting concept to it. The characters are interesting. I mean, there's a lot to this book that the qualities of this book are there. The ragtag team of people, I really enjoyed, like, once you actually start to get to know some of them. I really liked Abigail and Magnus. I loved them. I really liked Corona, and I can't remember the other dude's name. It would start with a C as well. And I really liked Gideon. Harrow, I never really caught on to her. I wasn't a big fan. I felt like she was way too deceptive throughout. But there were a lot of things about this book that I did enjoy. But it was just overall the amount of, like, the lack of information regarding what was happening and who the players were was just very frustrating, and I couldn't rate it any higher than I did. And that being said too, like, I won't continue with the series just because if I couldn't get my footing in the first book, I'm not going to spend the time getting my footing later in the series. I did have a few questions here about, like, what did we think about Gideon's ultimate? And we kind of discussed that already. We kind of discussed, if we were going to move forward. You said yes. I'm saying no. So I think we're just going to skip right over into additional topics and stuff, because there are a few little things here and there that I'm just like, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? So theory time. So, okay. So everyone who's watching, or if you're watching this in replay, this is the time where I'm going to get really potentially spoiler-ish, because I have a lot of theories that I'll never be able to know if they come to fruition unless Laura tells me, which she probably will. But
yeah.
So we know that for the 9th house, there's this locked tomb. Okay. And we know that, again, these are spoilers, that Harrow, as a child, a 9-year-old, decides that she's just going to go and open that tomb and find out what's inside, even though the legend is that if you open the tomb, you will die on your first step. Like, the magic basically just kills you. It doesn't for her. She goes in, she sees what's in there. There's a chick, a girl or a woman, or I don't even know what, in water, like, just hanging out, just basically
frozen.
petrified. And she goes and closes the door. Gideon sees her do it, goes and tattles. And that is what causes Harrow's parents to commit suicide. And Harrow was supposed to as well, but doesn't. She couldn't bring herself to kill herself as a 9-year-old. Good for her.
Right.
Which is why Harrow hates Gideon. Harrow hates Gideon because Gideon saw her at her weakest moment. And Gideon hates Harrow because Harrow's a bitch.
Yeah, and has tried to kill her and beat her up her whole life.
So anywho, my assumption is, because we still don't know anything about this girl in the tomb, my assumption is, just based on knowing the titles of the next couple of books, I assume that this Nona, which is the third book, is who is in this tomb. That's what my first prediction. I also, there was something that happened. I had all these things I thought, and now I'm losing them. They're slowly drifting away. Gideon. So Gideon is not from this space, right? We know that she, as you said, was brought by her mother. Her mother passed in the traveling, and Gideon was a baby and lived in this 9th house. And she was spared in this neutralization of these children to create Harrow, right? And then when they did the siphoning, where Harrow siphoned from Gideon to travel on this, I couldn't even describe it to you, parapet, maybe, to get this thing at the end, Gideon's soul is basically just, she basically died. And then the next day, when Corona came in to like heal her, make sure she's okay, she was like, really? You're feeling fine? Really? You this? Really? You that? Like, and she said, her necromancer said that she should have like brain damage. She should have all these different things wrong with her. So again, so she didn't die from poison, and she didn't die from that. My theory is Gideon is not what we think she is. Because how many times in the book did we have something that was told to us that wasn't what it was?
Yeah, like
the skeletons at this place. They weren't just reanimated skeletons.
Right.
They carried the souls of the people that they used to be. Mm-hmm. That's why they were animated so well. Teacher was also not what they thought he was. He was a reanimated, like, flesh and bone, like a real person, but reanimated. He was not actually like a living thing. So I feel like Gideon is something like that as well, because it doesn't make sense that she didn't die from the poison. She didn't die from that siphoning. And it just, I feel like there's something there. And maybe that's why this author is very much like show and tell. They only give you certain aspects throughout the book, and it's going to continue through the series. But for me, it's just not enough at this point. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, when we got to the planet and we figured out it was, like you said, yeah, I'm not surprised, Andy. If you have questions, I can fill you in. Just let me know. And it got to be like locked room mystery stuff. I was like, okay, good. This is going to be great, because not only will we get to find out about where they are right now and this like lictorhood test that they all have to go through, then we're going to get backstory. We're going to find out about like legends, what this world is like, maybe more about the Emperor, what this war could be, like all of this stuff. And we would find out what Gideon was based on some legend they found in some musty old book they found in some locked room. That's what I thought was going to happen. None of that happened. It was all these random, really difficult, extremely obscure tests that nearly kill you, but like somehow people get through. And when they were murdered, it was like in a hallway by like nothing, for the most part. So that was frustrating. I had high hopes that it would be more explanatory and it would make more sense. She could still do things differently and have different reveal points and different beats for like storylines and things, and it would still be a really excellent, really interesting book without following just the like more traditional, well-known locked room pattern of things. That could have been done, but was not at all done, and was fairly useless because, like you said, we find out like none of that had to happen for the
Right.
thing. And I think that what Gideon is, who she is as a being, is so even little referenced to, that she is clearly not like of this world, like a human being like everyone else appears to be, has immortal life of some kind and can become immortal like through a skeleton bone thing or whatever else, which again, not very well explained, but are things that exist in this universe. Like she could exist that way maybe, but like her whole, I'm gonna say freak showness, I don't know what else to say, like that she can survive all these weird, super extreme things with really no damage to herself, is just mentioned those 2 times. And I feel like that's a way bigger deal than those 2 brief mentions are, like that should be brought up again. And she should be questioning herself, like, gee, why am I alive through this?
Yeah,
And
no.
there should be some introspection. And
no.
But there's nothing.
There's not. Especially when she finds out that she was poisoned for 10 minutes.
Right.
She just thinks like, oh.
Yes. And
I must have had a really good immune system.
Yeah. Like what? No, that deserves a different kind of reaction. And also, I understand that there were other like nuns around and there were other old people, crocs, whatever. But still, you would think a lot of this legend and the stories and the truth that Harold thinks she knows about, like, don't open this door, you're going to die if you take a step in. And the thing about how the 200 babies were killed and how Harold was made and stuff. Her parents had to have told her that, because I'm assuming most, if not all, of that information is privileged information and would be something that only the royal family would know, not a bunch of nuns, right? So
well, I don't think the nun. No, I think it was just the parents. So
right. So if Hera was 9 when her parents killed themselves, she remembers all of this legend and all these stories and all this detail from when you were 9 years old. Get real. Get real. Come on.
Well, I'm looking forward to your thoughts. Gonna be a lot of really you're going to continue on the series.
I am.
You sound so happy to continue reading.
I'm so mad. I'm so mad about it. This is going to be an unintentional hate read, but it is a sort of intentional hate read. I don't get all the hype. I don't get all the 5 stars. And this could have been so much more complicated and so much richer, so much more emotional, had so much more impact if it was written just a little differently. And that's very annoying because this is an impressive book.
I know. It has a lot of potential. It has a lot of potential. It's dark. Yeah. It's snarky. You know, a lot of this sci-fi fantasy, we don't see this necromancer side, but then that is like, that magic system is totally not described. We know it has something to do with bones, but then they also can kind of do magic without bones, like so it was very confusing. It wasn't explained properly. Like, this isn't like when you read a fae book where, you know, like they draw their magic from the earth or the water or the air. Like, we've read so many of those, we know, right? This is necromancers. This is not a very prominent topic, you know, and I was kind of excited for that, like, oh, something different. And I feel like, and for the book, I mean, the book's like, what, 600 pages? I mean, it's a big book.
No, it's
and
not
like, where did all the pages, like, what did all the pages do? Like, what did I read? Like, why was it so long, but yet I feel like I didn't get any information. And I appreciate the character, like, don't get me wrong, the best part of this book is the characterization. They have great and strong characters, but just the world around them is just weak. It's just nothing is described very well. It's just,
and it's not even a case of a book being more or all plot and no character development or vice versa. it's not even that. It's just like, I'm going to say half-assed, and that's really mean and unfair, and I don't mean to be that, say half-assed, because clearly the author put a hell of a lot of work and thought into this, but it just is missing so much. Like, if you're supposed to stand on 4 legs for a table, it's like one real shaky one and one that's kind of there, and the other 2 are just gone. So it's really unstable. But like, I'm frustrated. But I'm starting that next one as soon as we stop talking tonight. You bet your bippy, because I want to keep going while I remember some of this stuff.
Yeah, that's
so
really your best bet, and hopefully it'll explain itself a little bit better. Maybe in the in between of these books being published, there's a little bit of understanding of where people were at as far as understanding the book. So maybe there's more description. Maybe there's more.
Maybe there's a different editor. You know.
Yeah.
Maybe she had different beta readers. You know, I don't know. I just. We're just mostly ranting, Andy.
Yeah, I know. And I'm trying to be kind because I mean, there's a lot of people that really enjoy this book.
Yes.
And I wouldn't say like it wasn't a terrible book. It just
no.
Based on a lot of fantasy books that I've read, based on any books that I've read, when you leave a book, you should have more understanding because you finished it than when you started it.
And even if you have questions about something, it should be a question about something that you'd be like, oh, I can't wait to see what happens, how they're going to resolve this or that thing. Mm-hmm. Not a seemingly complete break to a whole new Lord knows what.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know.
And another weird thing about Harrow surviving and Gideon not, which boils my piss. So being a lictor is being the right-hand man to the emperor, essentially. Mm-hmm. You have to be a strong person. You're going to be immortalized. Again, why would you pick the bird person who never does any working out, is like super skinny, and like does not, why would that be your choice? Why wouldn't, and I get like the royalty thing and like whatever, blah, I get it. But like, if you're going to have someone be a body, you want the strong person, because the lictor is supposed to be extremely strong, regardless of immortality, right? They have to be able to fight still.
I think when they become lector, I don't think that their physical body actually means anything for that, because their immortality and their necromancy, their ability to wield magic becomes like 100% like optimized. When we see the person that takes over Dulcinea's body, I can't remember what her name was, because she only existed in the book for like 20 pages.
Yeah.
She was extremely weak as well, which is like she mentions that her and Dulcinea had a similar disease or something, but because she's a lector, she basically has been suffering for tens of thousands of years,
absorbing this people's souls, whatever.
Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I gotta look up her name.
But then Ianthe, she also becomes lector, and if you remember what the emperor said, neither one of them are actually dead.
Right.
They're both still alive. They're both still existing. So is the war against them?
I don't know.
Or does he just corral them and go, pat them on the back and be like, okay, well, y'all just need to work together.
Right.
Like, I have no idea. And I'm so happy, and I don't care enough to.
Her name is Cytherea, which sounds like a venereal disease to me. Every time I read it, I was like, she needs a cream for this. It just sounds like a bad disease. Why Cytherea? Yeah. Does that itch? Do you have a rash? Is it spreading?
I didn't like that she even existed. The fact that you bring her up in the very last, 10th of the book, like, oh, just so you know, I've been here the whole time. Messing with you guys and killing you guys off because I just needed to make my moment to get the emperor here so I can kill him, because I'm so mad that he made me immortal and made me live in this terrible realm and blah blah blah. blah, 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 blah. I'm like,
Yep.
no, that's not, you don't get to do that. You don't get to write an entire book of these people trying to figure out what is going on, and then there be just some random ass villain that's been there the whole time.
Yeah.
No,
And
that's
when
not fair.
right, and when Silas like freezes Gideon in the hallway, apparently unknown to who we think is Dulcinea, that like when he freezes her so she can hear him confront her and like implode himself or what, you know,
Oh, it
whatever.
wasn't Silas. That was
Who was that?
Corona's necromancer, but I can't
Yeah.
remember his name. It was like, he was really good. I liked him a lot. He was in
Yeah.
love with Dulcinea.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Not Pro. It was
Silas was
Nefarious.
the other dude from the 8th house.
Nefarious turn. So yeah, when he freezes her, and you get the very classic Agatha Christie hiding in the hallway, or like someone is doing this big reveal. I was like,
The big
good,
reveal, yeah.
we're gonna understand everything now. But even that was confusing AF because, like you said, we have no idea that this person that has been inhabiting Dulcinea. I mean, I think it's fairly clear it's not her after a while because no one is who they say they are. But to have it be this venereal disease person that does not exist until that exact moment, and we don't find out her name or anything until she is this like horrible like sea pod spider beast killing everything in her path. That's when we find out her name and what she is. Like, I'm sorry, no, that's not a reveal. That is some BS. Like, because that's still not a reveal. She explains a little bit, but that's still just like drops of information. Like, what is it? Is that Family Guy when it's like, ooh, piece of candy, ooh, piece of candy? And it keeps going. That's what it was like with information. But it was still wasn't saying what she was until you find out while they're fighting, oh, she's a lictor. Like, throughout the first fight, you find that out. You're like, wow, what? That's not no, honey, that's not a reveal. Did you read Agatha Christie? No. Oh,
Anywho.
didn't hate this book. Very frustrating.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to harp on this book too much. Like I said, it has a lot of really good and potentially good things about it, but there's a lot wrong with it too. Everyone is entitled to their rating.
Yes.
Everyone is entitled to what they love and hate about this book. We are not saying that anyone who read it and gave it a high score is wrong, and therefore 1-star wrong either. It's just, it's where you come from, what you've read, what your life is like, and you are able to read a book from that direction. But anywho, let's go ahead and pause there on the book.
I'm thrilled that everyone loves this book. I'm thrilled that people think it's the best thing ever. I love that people think Gideon is the bee's knees. I think it's great that it's like 5-star beloved. Wonderful. I'm so happy. So many people have books that they love, and they love this thing. I think that's wonderful. I just don't understand it. And that's okay.
Yeah. That's okay.
So, yes, happy. I know you're happy too. Everyone who loves this book, happy. Congratulations. I'm so glad for you. Yeah. I don't understand it. Don't be rich.
On that note, let's completely switch gears out of sci-fi fantasy and right into some rom-com with some magical realism. In our July read of The Kindred Spirits Supper Club by Amy E. Reichard, which we will start in our reading sprints next week, Tuesday, which is July 1st. If you follow us, you know we do reading sprints on the first Tuesday of the month and our live discussion on the last Tuesday of the month. Also, for those of you who follow us in our Etsy shop, DoubleBookedCo, do remember that July is our anniversary month, so keep your eyes and ears open as there may be lots of fun stuff coming your way. So, that being said, let's go ahead and wrap it up. We hope you all have a good evening. We hope that you made it through this discussion. If you are watching this in replay and you're here at this moment, we appreciate you as well and hope that you have made some comments. We'd love to reach back out and discuss. But until next time, which is next Tuesday at 8 p.m., we'll see you then. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.